All right, hello, good morning. Welcome to AWS Made Easy Ask Us Anything, episode number 60. I'm Stephen
Hi,
Barr.
everyone.
Hi, everyone.
We're so happy to be joined by Yuriy. Yuriy, how are you doing today?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so excited to be here and have a chat about anything.
Yeah, this episode has been a long time coming. We met up in San Diego last during FinOps X, and we've been planning to have you on the show and discuss a pretty neat agenda. And it was also very timely, given that you guys have had some really amazing new announcements. So we'll talk about that today. But first, how's your week been, guys? Yuri, how's your week
Oh,
or the
it's it,
weekend?
it's going great. Just move the house, preparing for a bit of little holiday with family in London. In meanwhile, working on some new exciting stuff for CUDOS. So everyone stay tuned. We are going to release interesting things in CUDOS and in KPI dashboards. And yeah, so like as usual, a lot of exciting stuff around, helping customers to optimize costs and yeah, spending some time with family.
That is awesome. What about you, Stephen? How was your weekend?
Good. Got caught up on a lot of non-work related, house maintenance type of things that have been deferred due to our due to our summer. So I've got caught up on those. Got some good relaxation in. Starting to plan a hiking trip with my two older kids. I'm excited about that. Life is really good. Can't complain. And doing some finally reflecting and unpacking over the New York summit. That was really nice.
That is awesome.
What about you, Rahul?
Yeah, I was just jet lagged and recovering from an amazing New York trip that we had last week. The reception and the conversations that we had were pretty amazing. So I got some rest over the weekend as I flew back. And given that I'm in Chennai now, pretty much, 10 and a half hour or somewhat, yeah, somewhere on their time difference. But yeah, super kicked about this week and all the amazing folks that we have lined up for the weeks to come.
Yeah, really looking forward to one of those folks, Darko. He was at the summit as well, as we got to spend some time together. That was really nice. Even though he lives here, so I see him somewhat regularly.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So why don't we kick it off? Why don't we get started? Because we have so much stuff to talk about. Why don't we start with Yuri? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, uh, how you got to be in AWS, and particularly in the current role that you are in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm based out of Luxembourg at the moment, and I've been with AWS about almost 4 years so far. And before joining AWS, I used to work in different roles, like leading DevOps teams in large telco organizations. Then also was working as a software developer and systems architect, and building different distributed systems, data intensive applications, mostly in financial sector for asset management companies and investment banks. And yeah, then as I said, about 4 years ago, I joined AWS because I was very excited with this opportunity. Joined enterprise support organization. So my role at AWS is technical account manager. So at the moment, I'm Principal TAM, working with enterprise support customers and helping them to optimize their workloads on AWS, not necessarily related only to cost. We help customers with all the aspects of their workloads, with security, with performance, reliability, and overall helping them to achieve operational excellence. And it happened to be that around 3 years ago, together with a group of very very motivated and knowledgeable and like Amazonians and who like experts in FinOps, we started to experiment with building some visualizations based on cost and usage report and other sources from AWS services, and actually visualizing and finding some insightful information out of the data, and visualizing in the way that we show customers during our management business reviews, our cadence calls. So we decided, hey, why cannot we just create a template out of the visuals that we've built? And why can't we just share it with the customers, so every AWS customer can get pretty much the same visualizations as we provide to our enterprise support customers during management business reviews, as a self-service instrument, which actually was very, very well received by customers, even by enterprise support customers. They were very, very happy to get something that TAMs were bringing to them, from time to time, all the insights to get as a self-service tool, so they can get to this anytime they want. So yeah, that's a brief story of Cloud Intelligence dashboards and CUDOS dashboard in particular. So and then since these 3 years, it grew in pretty large project within AWS. We have many customers who adopted it. We have many account teams internally who use it for their reviews. And yeah, I'm just so excited to lead the team with, as I mentioned, group of very, very motivated and individuals, and who experts and really, I would say, the best in the industry in terms of FinOps and cost optimization topics.
I really like that origin. That's really interesting how you had it, and then you thought, okay, the customers, the large enterprise customers, they're definitely wanting to visualize their own costs, and so they might be, in some senses, it's this duplication of effort across all of your clients. So then you can standardize that, so then you can have a standard of talking about the same thing.
Oh yes, that's the whole idea, that we actually scaling the knowledge which we get by working with the customers. We're scaling it to all customers through the dashboards. Yeah, so that's the whole idea. So if we will be talking about CUDOS and latest release, so that a great example of how something like idea of one technical account manager was brought into dashboard, so then it could be used by any AWS customer at the moment. Also, the good part here is that we were lucky here that our serverless analytics services, like Amazon QuickSight, Athena, S3, so they went up to that level of maturity and feature set that allowed us very easily to implement that and share with many customers. So it's pretty easy to deploy. It's pretty easy to use by customers. So it was a mix of good timing, good feature set of our services which we could build on and deliver this to our customers.
Yuriy, you said that the CUDOS dashboard and the Cloud Intelligence dashboard overall have been about 3 years in the making. So before we get into the details of these dashboards and dive into the new releases, I have one question for you. This is something that we get asked over and over again. It seems like you've been working on helping customers reduce costs or save money or eliminate waste for a very, very long time. And the common question that I usually get asked is, that just seems non-intuitive, because at Cloudfix we are trying to do the same. So why, in your opinion, does AWS like cloud optimization tools like Cloudfix or CUDOS dashboard or the Cloud Intelligence dashboard, and why is AWS investing in it? Is it not anti the revenue stream that AWS is kind of very relying on? So I know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from you about what your view is about Amazon's take on helping customers save money as against trying to build up more revenue with waste.
Oh yes, that's a great question, and I hear this question a lot of times, especially when you come to customer and bring some cost optimization opportunities, which very easy to implement. So in a matter of couple of clicks, they can eliminate like a big chunk of infrastructural waste. But the reason behind is, first of all, because we are customer obsessed company. Yeah, like in Amazon we have leadership principles, and one of the principles, and like the main one, is customer obsession. Yeah, we work in interest of our customers. We want our customers to succeed with us, right? We want to help them to be successful, and in this matter, we want to make sure that they get best out of their cloud investment, right? And it means that we don't want them to spend into infrastructural waste, into like something that just hits the air. We want them to spend on something that brings value to their business. And what we believe is that when customers optimize the costs, they actually have more possibilities, more opportunities to invest this released cost into growth of their business. Yes, so it's like FinOps is not about saving money; it's about earning money. Yes, so that's the reason behind. So customers will be, by saving with eliminating infrastructural waste, customers will be able to grow their business, and also it reflects into customer trust. Customers trust us, and they know that we are here to help to identify like unoptimized workloads as much as we can. Yeah, of course, it's like there are so many services and there are so many cost optimization opportunities. So it's like, but where we can and where we know about, so we try to help them to optimize.
That's exactly right. Being on the customer side of things as well as the partnership that we've had with AWS on all the cost optimization stuff that we've worked with AWS on, I can say that, from personal experience of over 15 years with AWS, that deep customer obsession runs throughout the entire organization. And it's really the key to long-term success. Because if you make your customer successful, that partnership allows you to, engage in even more deep manner in the long run, and it's a win-win in the long run. Awesome.
And like you said, spend that isn't on over-provisioned S3 access tiers or elastic IP addresses is going to be spent on SageMaker and Bedrock and other, more value-adding services as the business grows, right? It's very rare that someone wants to do exactly what they've always been doing just for less. We almost never see that, right? It immediately gets reinvested. I really love that emphasis on customer trust, right? That's building up that long-term relationship, because it's more than a vendor, right? It's a utility that we need to be able to count on for, the infinite horizon future. So that trust is critical.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely right. So let's dive into the most exciting part of this. So we started talking about the CUDOS dashboard a few weeks ago when we spoke to Meredith Holborn on the, again, I think she's also one of the TAMs who've been part of this amazing team that you guys are, that you've built to kind of push the CUDOS dashboard and the Cloud Intelligence dashboard as well. And since then, you've had some amazing new releases. So why don't you tell us a little bit about all the new stuff that has just come? And from there, then we can talk about what's coming in the future.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And indeed, so Meredith done a great introduction to Cloud Intelligence dashboards in your live stream, I think a couple of months ago. And we always have exciting releases. So we always innovate and iterate on behalf of our customers. And that's what personally, it keeps me motivated, like personally, because so there is so much energy inside AWS behind this, and there are so many folks who bring their ideas now and want to contribute and scale. So and a couple of weeks ago we actually released a new version of CUDOS, and there we added like plenty of stuff, but few things I want to talk about in particular. And let me switch to the demo.
You put it on screen?
Yeah. Let me switch to the screen. So yes, here we are in the CUDOS dashboard. It's our demo stand where pretty much everyone can follow this link and check it out. So that's the CUDOS dashboard, which you can see with your data if you deploy in your accounts. This is a demo data. So one interesting part which we released in CUDOS dashboard is we now showing in one place all the savings and discounts for previous months which you received. Yes, so before it was like several different places where you can find savings which you've got from using reserved instances and savings plans, spot, then credits, refunds, other types of discounts like bundle discounts. So now it's a single place where you can find all the discounts. So, and also we added a little bit of visuals for to break it down into these categories. So now you can see in one single visual all your savings in discounts in one place, and again you can see and easily categorize them. So like credits, refunds, spot savings, RISP savings that come to you, and you can see what's your amortized cost which actually you pay in this month, and what would be the cost like before discounts that you've got, or savings opportunities which you leveraged. And also you can see like the total percentage out of, let's say, public cost for on demand which we list in the price. So that's one part of this release, because many customers want to see this in a single place. One important thing with Cloud Intelligence dashboards and with CUDOS, that customers can actually consolidate data from multiple AWS organizations. So we have many customers who run their workloads across multiple AWS organizations or multiple payer accounts. So with CUDOS and Cloud Intelligence dashboards, it's possible to consolidate all your payer accounts or data from payer accounts in one single place. Then you can see all your payer accounts, and you can like select some of them, or you can select all. So this is pretty powerful, especially for customers who have multi-payer, to have this all consolidated details, and also details about discounts in one single place. So that's the first part of release. And the second part of releases, which I'm very, very excited with, is in messaging and streaming tab, because again, in CUDOS, we have like several tabs which show high level or executive level overview, like summary for reserved instances and savings plans, months over months trends, executive summary. And then we go into breakdown of every service, like Amazon S3, for storage services, for databases, for DynamoDB. And we have messaging and streaming tab, where we have details about Amazon Kinesis and managed Kafka as well. And for Kinesis, we provide we're providing details about your top Kinesis resources. Yes, so here is a visual where you can see your top 20 Kinesis streams or Firehose delivery streams. So you can see your resources even if you are not using tags. Yes, so like you don't need to tag them to actually visualize in CUDOS. But now we also can identify and show you out of the box, show you idle Kinesis streams and consumers, which is very important, because in Kinesis you have basically you pay you paying for hourly charge per Kinesis shard, which you are using. So there is always hourly charge for this resource when it provisioned, when stream is provisioned. And then you pay also for like put and read requests or get requests from the stream. So like for usage of the stream. So apparently, if you provision a stream and then don't use it, it's pretty easy to identify those idle streams out of the cost and usage report. And again, we thought, hey, why don't we just put it into CUDOS dashboard and visualize it? So as you can see, this idle Kinesis data streams and consumers, where you have some hourly charges and no any single usage charges, which is a bit of, ironically, because from cost and usage report, you can get also details about cost and non-usage, or lack of usage, actually. So here you can see a total that, for example, in this demo data or demo customer, you have $547 of idle streams for last 30 days. And again, it's very actionable, very easy to understand and consume this information. And you have account which those idle stream belongs to, and also you have resource ID or IRN of the stream, so you can see the region, you can see resource ID, and you can easily, or your engineers can easily then decide what they should do with it. So maybe it's not used indeed, and they can just delete it.
So idle resources seem like a very common and an easy way to save a lot of money, because invariably, when in most deployments that we've come across, there are tons of idle resources where someone launches, especially in dev and test environments, you find that a lot of resources get launched but don't really get used or monitored in the long run. And so that's one of the biggest areas of waste and also one of the easiest ones to fix. So tell us a little bit about all the other idle resource insights that you can get from the CUDOS dashboard.
Yeah, so we can focus on like top services like later, but in CUDOS, like, because using the similar approach of having resources which are have hourly fees and also some usage fees. Yeah, so like pretty much using similar approach, we can identify other types of idle resources. And for example, in data transfer tab, so and again, data transfer tab helps you to understand your data transfer charges. So we simplify a lot the concept of data transfer. So we speak in easily understandable terms like data transfer region to internet, region to direct connect, region to region, inter-AZ. So customers don't really need to learn different usage types to understand their data transfer charges. Then we also provide a lot of other details about your data transfer and dimensions of span, so you can see which regions your data transferred between. Also top 10 resources for data transfer. But the interesting part about idle resources is actually this network resource utilization summary, because we have this pattern of hourly fees and usage fees for many network resources like ELBs, NAT gateways, VPC endpoints, where you're paying for provisioned resource hourly charges and you're also paying for usage, like amount of gigabytes of processed traffic, etc. So in this network resource utilization summary, you can select the type of resource which you're interested in, and together with breakdown of costs per per account, months over months, then top resources. And again, you don't need really to tag resources to see cost per resource, which is pretty powerful. We have visual which shows again idle resources with no traffic for last 30 days, and it uses pretty much similar concept. So we used it way before we implemented this for Kinesis. We used it for this network resources for quite a while. So as you can see, you can list all your idle VPC endpoints, for example, and you can see what would be the total cost of idle VPC endpoints. So this is one part of like idle, like this is a part of idle resources which you can identify as is, and they're guaranteed to be idle. Yeah, so it's not like you then need to make any kind of decision, and or like with EC2 where we talk about low utilization. So those resources are not used at all. Yes, there was no single byte of traffic passed through them. So like you can be pretty confident with understanding that okay, they are not used in last 30 days.
Yeah, when we use the same pattern in our finder fixers, right? A lot of them come down to query the cost and usage report. Like I said, find the fixed costs, but not the metered cost. Almost like a car lease, right? Like you might pay a daily charge and then a mileage charge, and you say, okay, there's no mileage charge, so you're not using the car, so why would you pay the daily charge? Actually, that reminds me, that's how we got connected, right? Because I posted a blog post on LinkedIn that described one way of doing something using the AWS APIs, and you commented and saying, here's how to do it using the cost and usage report. And we had a little LinkedIn comment back and forth, and that's kind of what brought us ultimately here.
Yeah, and again, there are many ways how you can discover that. Yeah, you can discover that through APIs. You can discover that through CloudWatch metrics. The beauty of discovering this through cost and usage report is that you can get it via one query to cost and usage report, and in visual we do that for you. So we even simplify it more. So it's like you get the list of resources. You don't even need to run any query yet to get this data, but also you can get it in one single request for entire organization in a single place. That's where it's like it it works better in many cases because you do not even need to have access to every single linked account to make API call to it, so that's why it's kind of, for many cases, it's a bit simpler.
It's much easier than iterating over a list of organization accounts and managing all the different credentials, and then having this 4 or 5 nested for loop trying to gather up all this data. Using it in the cost and usage report is the way to go.
So I actually see this as a 2-step process to get efficient. And the first step, of course, is visualizing and at least understanding where that wasted spend is. And you've got the CUDOS dashboard that does a pretty neat job of at least helping you identify these wasted resources across the thing. If you actually want to go ahead and remediate it, which is the second step, at Cloudfix, we've got a pretty neat set of blog posts that we've been putting out for remediation for every one of these cases. Stephen, can you just pull that one up?
Sure.
Where we can just share some examples of how you can yourself go ahead and look at a bunch of these specific scenarios, whether it is idle instances, idle resources on networks, or Kinesis streams, or EBS snapshots, or any of those, and you can go figure out how to, or we'll give you very specific instructions that you can execute.
Well, here's one: idle Neptune clusters, and we talk about cost and use.
This is idle Neptune clusters. So you're very detailed steps that you can execute yourself if you wanted to clean up all of these resources. Of course, in Cloudfix, we actually automate all of this up and make it available to you. But the neat thing is that none of this is rocket science or a deep secret. So we've actually published out all of these very specific instructions you can execute and save money for yourself. There's tons and tons of waste over here. So, it just makes sense to go ahead and, not waste all this money and instead invest it in something interesting. Like, what's the next big Gen AI idea that you have? What is the next big machine learning, project that you want to implement? And all of that costs money and resources, right? And you probably don't have that right now. But the amount of money you can save from just reducing all the waste is pretty incredible, and very easily feeds into a lot of these new projects that you probably want to do and have been dreaming of doing for a while.
Yeah. But on the other side, like, it's not that easy for every type of resource. Yeah. So because here we show, like, we're certain that those resources are not used at all, which is not that easy to determine, for example, for EC2, yeah, or it's not that easy to determine for things like S3. Yeah. So I mean, it's you can do that, but still it's like there is more, there are more kind of, it depends. Yeah, or you need to know a lot of more context to optimize it.
So for S3, for example, you should just turn on S3 intelligent tiering, right? If you just turned on S3 intelligent tiering, the access patterns and AWS will automatically decide what tier it should be. And that should just happen by default across all your buckets. Like, there are very, very rare scenarios where you don't want to turn on S3 intelligent tiering. There's, very, very limited scenarios.
Yeah, and actually here's like a nice example how you can use CUDOS to monitor results of your actions. Yeah, because even if you turn on intelligent tiering will be moving the data between different storage classes. And here, as you can see, we have two visuals. One shows you cost per API operation, yeah, and second shows you storage per storage type. So as you can see, the amount of storage, for example, in this demo customer is growing. And because intelligent tiering switch data from basically to infrequent access, so you can see immediately the cost drop while the amount of data is growing. So at the same time, when you use intelligent tiering, first of all, like, and you have this pattern of, of data being like different access patterns. So you want to in S3 to actually, choose and place to the right storage class. So consider the few things. So if you know that the data falls into great use case for intelligent tiering, just use that storage class when you put object. Yeah, so avoid additional transition of the object to like from standard storage to intelligent tiering. Another thing is, if your objects are lower than 128 kilobytes, then yeah, most likely intelligent tiering will be keeping them anyway on standard storage. So for very, very, very small object, it might not make any sense. So for that, you can assess and to check average object size in your bucket by using, for example, S3 storage lens. Which again, if you check on CUDOS here, we on every tab we have like a recommendations section, and it's a good part of also learning. Like we recommend some actions like, hey, check the S3 storage lens to get organization-wide visibility, and etc. etc. Another great stuff, if I may add here, is multi-part uploads for S3, because if you use S3 multi-part uploads and you have not completed uploads, this not completed uploads will be stored anyway by S3, so S3 won't delete it as a service. So it's important also, if you do not plan to complete this multi-part uploads, if in most of the cases, like this is not a case, so it's like this some multi-part upload was interrupted and then started from scratch. So this uncompleted one, it just data stays there. So there is a lifecycle policy to clean up incomplete S3 multi-part upload. So again, this is something that you are most likely paying for, but not using in many cases. Yeah. So then just setting up lifecycle policy to clean up incomplete multi-part uploads would help to actually reduce S3 costs.
That's an interesting one. I can see that being really useful. Like, say, if you're running an app where people are uploading videos, and there's they hit a bit of a spotty connection, and then the app the upload fails, and so you redo it again. So you don't think about it in the back end. S3 is actually storing that 2/3 of a video somewhere forever, unless you tell it not to. So that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, and another thing, if we talk about S3 and kind of idle resources, yeah, so it's not really idle, but there are many cases when customers use standard storage for the data which pretty much never accessed. Yes, so the data where there are no like put, get requests, etc. So, and here in CUDOS you can find, for example, a visual which shows you top 10, as far as I remember, top 10 buckets and insights of that bucket. So breakdown of by API operation of the spend inside every of the buckets. So those IDs is the names of the 3 buckets, and you can identify some buckets, for example, like this one. And again, this is demo data, so the sometimes cost is not that relevant, but you can find that you have a bucket where you're paying only for standard storage and you don't pay for any other like API calls or things like that. So again, this is a very good candidate to move to infrequent access or intelligent tiering, but please also check average object size before doing that. So like, because in infrequent access storage class, the minimum object size is 128 kilobytes. So if you have small objects and you move them to infrequent access, they will actually start taking more data than in standard storage class.
Correct. That's one of the things in CloudFix. We've got a finder and a fixer that actually takes that into account and automatically moves or turns on S3 intelligent tiering, where the cost savings are going to be real. But the other side of the equation is also the data that was published by the S3 team, which said that over 90% of the objects that are stored in S3 get accessed only once in their entire lifetime. I mean, someone just dumps them and then you just never, ever touch them again. And when it comes to tens of trillions of objects that are today stored in S3, the amount of money that we spend on standard access tier for objects that never, ever get used more than once is pretty staggering. So we still have a long way to go to optimize those costs and figure out better uses for them.
Oh, yes. And also, if I may slightly deviate from CUDOS dashboard and make quick intro to KPI dashboard, which is one of cloud intelligence dashboards. And like in KPI dashboard, we actually provide customers ability to set their goals towards cost optimization KPIs, which we recommend to track. And one of the goals is like reduction of data on S3 standard storage. Yes, so they can set the goal. Then in KPI tracker, they can actually see where they are in terms of achieving that goal. So if the goal is to have less than 84% of S3 storage, S3 standard storage, so you can see where you are in terms of your progress. But also very interesting part on KPI dashboard that we provide a bit more insights to, more to engineering teams, maybe architects, to understand what are the buckets actually which contribute to the standard storage, or what they can start with to optimize it. And here we list the buckets which didn't have any. You see here we list put object, get object, copy object for a while. So no single get like API call, but they paying for standard storage. And we also kind of estimating the saving from moving to standard infrequent access, and also what could be the estimated savings since last API call. So like, let's say, since in this case, since April 2023, when there was last call to this bucket, if we moved the data to infrequent access, that's what we would be able to save. So again, this is the demo data. So in real customer scenarios, it comes to pretty big savings.
I couldn't agree more. There's just so much to save over here. So tell us this, what is coming down the pipeline with the CUDOS dashboard? What exciting new areas can we look forward to?
Yeah, so there are many different angles or areas which we are working on at the moment. So we are about to add a couple of new KPIs into KPI dashboard, which will help customers who are in progress of migration from license-based RDS engines or instances. So, for example, Oracle or Microsoft SQL server-like engines which have runtime fee or compute fee, but also they have license fee included, to open source engines which don't have license fee. So we will provide a couple of KPIs to help customers to visualize the instances which they can potentially, optimize and migrate to open source RDS instances and track their progress to. With CUDOS dashboard, we are working on also many different topics in, again, going further into showing customers savings opportunities and discovering like basically, so like there will be few things which will come into CUDOS in few next releases, is more details about customers spot savings, and also more details about the potential costs that they will be paying since February 1st, when we will start charging for elastic IP addresses which attached to Amazon EC2 instances. So we are going to release the visuals which will help customers to understand how much they are going to pay since February 1st. Or how much it would cost them today, let's say, if this price change would happen today. So again, it will help customers to understand the impact of the change, and also to push a little bit customers to to optimize their workloads, maybe consider to use IPv6, and kind of work on different kinds of optimizations.
Well, that sounds really exciting.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
No, I was, especially as the IPv4 space gets more and more crowded, right? It's good idea to have some mechanism in place to conserve them. And let's take a 30-second break, and we come back. Let's keep this going. We will be right back in 30 seconds.
Some tools just find AWS cost savings and make you do all the work. Visualizing cost opportunities is great, but that's not enough. CloudFix, on the other hand, actually delivers those savings for you. And you don't need to worry, because CloudFix is AWS recommended and easy to use. It's the only tool that fixes cost-saving opportunities, and not just finds. It's the easiest way to save money on AWS. It's all 100% automatic and risk-free. And the best part of all, it works non-stop. Stop overspending on AWS and click on the button to start saving now. All
right, we are back.
Great. So the next area that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on, Yuriy, was to talk about the cloud financial framework that was recently announced by AWS. So tell us a little bit about that. It seems to be a parallel, or I don't know if it is meant to be analogous to the FinOps Foundation's framework, or if it is something that's very AWS specific. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and thanks for asking, because actually in Cloud Financial Framework, we put a lot of information which we just discussed. Yes, so like how to find idle resources for different services. The goal of Cloud Financial Framework is to provide customers a kind of single place where they can look up for information about establishing cultural part of cloud financial management, or FinOps. Yes, so with references to our well-architected framework cost pillar, then we talk about how to establish foundations. And the aim is not to implement something what FinOps Foundation does. The aim here to provide practical recommendations for these foundations for AWS. That how to set up budgets, how to set up cost anomaly detection, how to set up a tagging strategy. So it's very, very practical steps, how you can do that. But the best part here, which I like about Cloud Financial Framework, which is that it has these playbooks for different services and different domains. So like for you might want to look, hey, what are the cost optimization opportunities for databases? Yes, so for RDS, and here is all the list of different optimization opportunities, again in a single place. And Cloud Financial Framework, so I would suggest to think about it as just a place where all this existing knowledge is aggregated. Yes, so we try to just collect here all existing knowledge which we know about, also validate it, and to make sure that we reference, for example, the latest blog posts, the latest information, because customers struggle to find. So for example, if you plan to use some new service, you probably want to learn about how to do it right from the beginning, how to make your new workloads come to the cloud already optimized. Yes, so here I usually use analogy with security. You don't want to deploy something which is not secure. Yes, so you will invest a lot of time into security reviews, into making sure that you understand security of these new services, right? So the same with the cost. You probably want to explore a bit and to make sure that you understand the cost aspect, right? You want to make sure that your FinOps teams have all the information, how to make a cost review of your workloads which you bring to the cloud. So that's why we kind of decided to put all existing content in a single place, Cloud Financial Framework, because at the moment there are so many information like blog posts, which sometimes some of them become obsolete with the time because services evolve and release new features, and the new blog posts appears. And then for customers it's very challenging to understand what's the most actual information, what they need to follow to actually succeed. And Cloud Financial Framework is actually the place where we recommend customers to look for these cost optimization opportunities, to look how to set up foundation. So it's rather not like a set of steps how to establish FinOps practice, about what FinOps Foundation talking. It's more about how then implement your foundations and cost optimization ideas on AWS.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I actually see this as a two-step mechanism. The first one is, if you've already got a bunch of services that you're using and you're spending a ton of money over there, the Cloud Financial Framework is a really, really neat way to get efficient around it. But the other thing that you just mentioned was also pretty neat, in that when there are tons of new services that are coming out, you're trying to figure out the best way and the best patterns to stitch them together and to use them. And the one tool or one resource within the AWS framework that I found very, very useful recently, and again, this has been a long time coming, is the prescriptive guidance website. So Stephen, I just sent you a link. If you can just pull that one up. AWS has this portal called the Prescriptive Guidance Patterns, where for specific services, for specific kinds of usage, you can actually bring this up, and there are patterns. There's a whole catalog of these patterns that you can leverage to actually do things right from the get-go. So not wait until you're using them and figured it out, by accident and stitch them together and you're using it and then you're optimizing it. But instead, right from the get-go, when you're getting started with some of these services, using these patterns within the prescriptive guidance portal are incredibly valuable too. These are tried and tested patterns for different kinds of use cases, different kinds of scenarios, and you should be able to just take these patterns as is and apply them to your setup. It doesn't make any sense to reinvent the wheel when it comes to these patterns of the way you stitch a bunch of these commodity services. So check it out. Check out the AWS prescriptive guidance. Now, all kudos to AWS. For the longest time, my biggest complaint against AWS used to be that AWS is not opinionated enough. And I'm so glad that this portal itself is called prescriptive guidance. So I'm really glad that this resource is there for users who, again, more often than not, get overwhelmed by all the sheer volume of services and the API that exists out there, and are still trying to figure out the best ways to stitch together all of these services. So an incredibly valuable resource, both the CFF, the Cloud Financial Framework, where there are very specific playbooks that you can look at, buy resources or buy services, and do the service level optimization on those. And then you have the prescriptive guidance framework, which tells you how to use them, how to use the different services in the right combinations or the right patterns.
Yeah, or what to keep an eye on. Yeah, because there are like several parts of this playbooks. Is visibility part is how to identify, like what type of storage you are using. Yeah, and then some guidelines or recommended actions, like what to check, what to consider, and yeah.
Neat.
So, sorry, go ahead, Stephen. You had a question.
No. I was just browsing the Cloud Financial Framework.
No, and I think the other request that we've had for the longest time is to make it as illustrated as possible, with clean, simple examples, so that any new user can just literally get started with it right away. And I think you guys have done an amazing job with all these specific playbooks, and the detail that's there for someone to just get started with these right away is pretty amazing. Unlike the older blog posts that used to be pages and pages of documentation that would be really hard to digest and execute on, these are just really, really simple.
Yeah, the most exciting part that, again, this is like driven by enterprise support and technical account manager, and also cloud financial management specialists in area who work day to day with their customers. And like we all learn from these cases. And then like we want to share it with wider audience. And here there are so much more to come. So it's just initial release, and there will be so much more content which is in works by amazing team who stays behind it. And also there is a on the top of the Cloud Financial Framework, like if you just go to the homepage, there is at the bottom there is email. So if anyone has ideas about what could be added, if someone came up with some great cost optimization opportunity which is not listed there, so yeah, if you click on Cloud Financial Framework on the top left corner, so I think at the bottom of this page there is a like email address.
I see it.
We should definitely collaborate on all the finders that we currently have.
Oh yes,
and it'd be awesome to have all of those CloudFix finders in the CUDOS dashboard itself, because that feels like one of the best places to have all of that insight, so that customers can leverage it.
Yeah.
So following up on that, Yuriy, I have another question for you. One of the big challenges that I still see is that now for at least a couple of years, if not more, the knowledge about some of these very basic approaches to saving money and redeploying the savings elsewhere, that concept has been there. And there are large organizations who've seen this. They've had the tools, they've had the visibility. If not the CUDOS dashboard, but specifically there have been hundreds of visualization tools in the market for years. Yet you find such inefficiency across organizations. I think we were speaking to someone and we got to know the insight that the average EC2 utilization happens to be just about 6% across all AWS customers. And some of these stats are shocking, right? And AWS is doing all it can to literally tell customers, don't waste money, go save, just get more efficient. There's an entire ecosystem of partners that is trying to do the same thing. There's an ecosystem of consultants who is trying to kind of bring that knowledge and insight and visibility to customers. Yet you find that inefficiency is kind of ubiquitous across AWS customers. I am starting to think that this is almost a problem like technical debt, and we'll start calling it FinOps debt going forward. We talked about this during our last week's session with Steph Gooch, but I literally start seeing this like a technical debt like problem, where unless there is some kind of a trigger or some kind of a event that forces you to look at your costs, people don't tend to look at costs. Like I was shocked that there's one company that we were speaking to that is an incredible growth phase, and they have a phenomenal amount of waste. It's just, a staggering amount of waste. Cost optimization doesn't even seem to be a priority across the organization. It's like, we don't care. The growth is more important to us. Getting speed is incredibly important to us. Cost optimization, no, we don't really care.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say pretty similar things. It's about a priority, yes. So it's about a priority of organizations, because if you think about cost in the cloud, it's another operational metric, together with reliability, together with time to market, together with like your security posture or security scores, together with your availability of your systems. So it's a matter of priority, which operational metric you want to influence or you want to pay attention on. And I think it was macroeconomic time of growth. Now it's like more like we don't see that much growth. Yeah, so it's macroeconomic climate changed. And we see companies taking more like priorities shifting more to FinOps. But also important to understand that FinOps is not a project, it's a process. Yeah, so it's like you cannot apply cost optimization and forget about it, because you will get, next day you will have another workloads which come unoptimized. So it's important for companies who want to focus on FinOps to understand that it should be part of their operations. Yeah, FinOps review should be part of enablement or launch of new workloads, the same as security review, like AppSec review. Someone should have a look from cost perspective on your workloads before they hit the cloud. Your solution should be FinOps ready, yes, or like they should be like there is no sense to bring like to optimize cost if you bring new workloads unoptimized. So you will end in this circle of constant cost optimization without being able to actually deliver results. So here it's important to make a step back and understand, okay, we need to start to acknowledge this on organizational level. Yes, that this becomes a priority for us. Then to take a very practical steps on implementing FinOps as a culture within organization, to make sure that everyone understands that this is priority for the company. Yeah, because like maybe not necessarily as a growth of customer base. Now is maybe like you can earn more by reducing cost per customer, right? If the customer base is not growing. So here then here where FinOps can help, and here where FinOps now becomes more important metric when, for example, I don't know, availability. Yeah, or like then you can focus on optimizing workloads, but important to not optimize what already in the cloud, but also what is coming to the cloud. Yeah, so that's very important part. And here I think FinOps Foundation does a great job with explaining and providing a lot of materials and helping customers to actually build FinOps function on across like organizations. While what we are doing here, yeah, so for example, with cloud intelligence dashboards, with CUDOS, we help customers with more practical recommendations. Okay, so now it's priority for you. Yeah, you have these reviews, but now how to bring this data closer to decision makers, and in a way that it's easily consumable by decision makers. Because historically, for example, it was not possible to consolidate out of the box with with default AWS services. Is if you're owner of several accounts, you cannot really see in Cost Explorer the view on top of all these several accounts. You either can see entire organizational cost or account by account, which is very challenging for but it's very common practice and scenario. And this kind of gaps, let's say, or depths in tooling, we try to close with the dashboards, because we can move very fast, because we use BI tool, QuickSight, which helps us, not to build UI, but rather to use BI tool. And those gaps, I believe, help engineers to be closer to the data, help these product owners to have consolidated view on top of their, 20 accounts, and then make decisions, like data-driven decisions, and push their engineers, push their architects towards more cost-optimized solutions.
I've got a follow-up question. I'm so glad you were talking about the cultural side of it and the organizational side. I want to kind of compare notes for a second. When you talk to a customer and you say, we have this great way of saving you money, like you said, here's a few clicks that you can do and you'll save all this money. We've seen two very different reactions to that. One is a very celebratory reaction. This is great. Look at all this stuff. And then the other reaction is the beginning of a finger-pointing game. Why didn't you figure this out already? How we left all this money? Have you seen those type of reactions too? And how do you handle that in your meetings with the customers?
So in many cases, what I see is like also, and again, when we come with cost optimization opportunities, for many customers, it comes like let's say all of a sudden. Like, hey, like they had their priorities, their developers had their sprints, they had something that they in progress. And imagine you come out of the bloom with some cost optimization recommendations, like, hey, you need to make these clicks. So for customers, it's very challenging to say, hey, okay, should we now stop all what we were doing and focus on this optimization thingy? So it's very challenging for them to to switch this context immediately. That's why in many cases, customers react not that fast as we wanted them on cost optimization. What is important to help them to self-service, okay, when we have time, maybe when they plan new sprint, in their, agile processes, if they plan new sprint, they can add something. Hey, look, there is a visual in this, in CUDOS, so you can have a look on it and then pick top 3 instances and review them, or pick top 3 EBS volumes and migrate them to GP3. So that's how you can get like being data available at the time when it's needed. That's how you probably can get a bit of better traction. But from my experience, customers who hear about cost optimization opportunities, they always excited. They like, but in many cases, I can give you example. I was chasing customer almost a year to actually implement, like to reduce cost for 20% by making a click. And it was not about commitments or savings plans or things like that. It was like, but at the end, they made this optimization and they were very happy, even after almost a year.
So Yuriy, you're talking about some of the top 3 and so on. So this is a question we ask all of our guests. What is your top 3 savings recommendation that you actually see come across all these customers that you speak to? What are the top 3 items that show up time and again?
Oh, yes. So like, first of all is, use services like Trusted Advisor and Compute Optimizer to identify underutilized or like over-provisioned EC2 instances, EBS volumes, and idle RDS instances and idle Redshift clusters as well. So there are like the most of like low-hanging fruits comes out of that, especially in large organizations. There are many use cases when someone somewhere spinned up very expensive instance and it just hitting air, doing nothing. So with Compute Optimizer, Trusted Advisor, and we provide dashboards to visualize data again because it's easier
Right.
to, with a dashboard, to see data across entire organizations than logging in every account. So that's why, like, start with the most impactful things. Yes. So, and then it would help also to whoever optimized cost actually to celebrate success, to report success, that we managed to, I don't know, to save by this step, we managed to save like 5% of our spend, which already great, which something that you can, build on like a success story, promote within organization, and try to embrace this culture of cost awareness and motivating others to do the same. So start from the low hanging fruits and the most impactful things, like the most expensive EC2 instances, and have a look in Compute Optimizer what the savings opportunities would be, or check your top S3 buckets and see whether you can move to, less expensive storage classes.
Got it. But let me just press on that a little bit more so that we can actually very prescriptively put 3 items on the screen for our audience. So of all the CUDOS dashboard deployments that you've done and you've actually spoken to customers about, what is the number one savings potential item that you see in practice across customers? What's the first one?
So in practice, it's I would say it's
not for each customer, just across all customers. So, you're like, oh, your S3 waste is crazy.
Yeah. So it's idle RDS instances, it's underutilized EC2 instances, and it's S3 basically potential savings from migrating to infrequent access and to Glacier. So
awesome.
those are the top 3.
But so the first one is idle RDS instances.
Idle RDS instances, underutilized EC2 instances. I would say I cannot say that one or another has bigger scale or less scale. It just they always come up as a bundle when I speak to customers. This. Yeah.
So we could say kind of the Compute Optimizer right sizing recommendations for RDS and
no. Compute Optimizer right sizing for EC2, then Trusted Advisor for idle RDS instances. Yeah, and then you can use CUDOS dashboard, S3 storage lens, KPI dashboard to identify your savings opportunities for S3 as well. It's also it's not a secret because it's like the most commonly used services here. So that's why there are plenty. But there are also a lot of small things, like we just talked about Kinesis data streams, idle streams for many customers who we kind of showed it, contribute to up to 40% of total Kinesis spend. So this would be for customers who heavily use Kinesis. It would be super important to review, for example, these new visuals in CUDOS and see what idle streams are. Maybe even more important than checking their EC2 instances.
Yeah, I think it will vary a lot customer by customer depending on what their use cases are or what they're trying to do with these AWS services. But it's definitely fascinating about these common patterns that we see across customer deployments. I think we are just about coming up on time. Thank you so much, Yuriy, for you and your team to have put out the CUDOS dashboard and the Cloud Intelligence dashboard. I think they are incredibly valuable tools for customers to really understand where and how they are spending or wasting resources, and to get optimized as quickly as possible. So thank you for all the work that you guys have been doing. It is absolutely remarkable. And I thank you on behalf of all the customers of AWS as well. And we hope to collaborate and work closely on coming up with new ideas and new finders, as we call them, in the CloudFix world, and have them as part of the CUDOS dashboard so that more and more customers can benefit from it.
Absolutely. And thanks a lot for having me. It's always pleasure to speak about cost optimization and different approaches which customers can implement. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks everyone in our audience for watching, and we'll see you again next week. All right.
Thanks,
bye everyone.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Some tools just find AWS cost savings and make you do all the work. Visualizing cost opportunities is great, but that's not enough. CloudFix, on the other hand, actually delivers those savings for you. And you don't need to worry because CloudFix fixers are AWS recommended and easy to use. It's the only tool that fixes cost savings opportunities and doesn't just find them. It's the easiest way to save money on AWS. It's all 100% automatic and risk-free. And the best part is that it works non-stop.